Hello, Jennifer. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Hi, Erik. I love you, boy.
Hello. I love you too.
So, you guys, in case some of you guys don't go to the end, I'm going to go ahead and give you Jennifer's information right now. Psychic medium, jenniferdoran.com. But I also put a little splash title page at the end. Um, so, oh, yeah, I forgot about something. Um, Jennifer, do you want to say anything about you and your site and what you have to offer?
I am a psychic medium, so I do connect to the other side. I can connect to loved ones, spirit guides, higher self. I can also get information about the future, what's going on here and now, and that sort of stuff.
And not everybody does that.
That's correct. Yep. No, not everybody does.
Okay, so look, there are two things we could talk about. I'll just let Erik choose. Technology and our children. Uh-oh. Technology and our children, or expectations. I'm going to open up the door, though, because Bella is trying to get out. I just think I closed it. What are you doing? There we go. Okay. All right.
Oh, okay. So actually, he's said they're both really good topics, and that we might actually discuss both of them.
Well, we could.
Um, but we can start with kids and technology.
Okay. Let's go for that. And then what I'll do is I'll stop it when we're finished, and we'll restart another, so it can be two
Sure.
different reviews.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the technology, he said it's like a double-edged sword, is what he calls it. Because it's a necessity at this point in history and in time. It's a necessity that the kids are exposed to technology. Unless you're totally living off the grid, um, if you're Amish, or living a lifestyle like that. But if you have children in public school, even doing private school, it's an absolute necessity. They need it, so they need exposure to the technology. But there's a fine line between what's acceptable and what is too much.
All right, well, let's
Um,
talk about the good things that technology does for our kids as they grow up to become adults in the adult world.
Yeah, well, I mean, he says learning the skills, the computer skills. It's really good for hand-eye coordination. Even some of these games and stuff that they play is very good for that kind of thing. He said there is a social aspect to being, good with the technology and kind of knowing the technology for kids. So there's a lot of good to it. They can't. He said kids can't get through public school without knowing how to use a computer, knowing how to type, and knowing how to, you know.
What do you mean that? What are you talking about as far as the social benefits are concerned?
Well, just for the kids who play some of the games or who are into some of the games, if a group of kids are talking about it and some kid has no idea what they're talking about, does kind of isolate them a little bit. um so he said it can
Yeah.
be, it can be good for their social growth as well.
Is there any
uh,
good? I know there's bad aspects, but are there any good aspects for the technology of social media for them, like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, that kind of thing?
uh so that he actually is kind of like, that's definitely different. He was kind of more talking about like computers, games, even the handheld game sets, but the social media, he said that's different. And really, what he's saying is that the social media, there's really no benefit to it um at a young age. For teenagers, there's really, until you're talking like adult, 18, 19, 20, there's
Right.
really no benefit that comes from it
Yeah, unless you,
for them.
of course, it's probably be too young before you're 18, but unless they use it to call to action for a cause or things like that. But
Yeah, which
lots of
that's
it
not,
is,
he said that's not what most kids would be
yeah,
doing. It's really just sets them up to be harassed and bullied, or to harass and to bully
yeah.
others. So no, he said there's not really any real benefit. Like, oh, they should be on Facebook because, they should be on Instagram because. No, he says no.
when I was growing up, Vogue magazine and things like that, they'd tell me, "Oh my God, I am not skinny enough. I'm not pretty enough, etc." But
Yeah.
social media takes it to a whole another level, kind of telling our kids what to look like, what to eat, what YouTube videos to watch, just
Yeah.
everything. It's just an external beacon for them.
Yeah. It's too impressionable. Too impressionable. And he says, especially like that teenage time, it's like the kids are still too impressionable, but they're also not telling their parents everything.
Mm.
Even kids who are still close with their parents and still have an open, communication, that they don't tell them everything because they're starting to keep some stuff, especially if they're being picked on and bullied and stuff like that. So it's just no benefit of social media at
Yeah,
that
I
point.
know. I mean, this has nothing to do with technology, but kids are at that age are like that. I remember I
Yeah.
found out Michelle, my second eldest in eighth grade, was being totally bullied by this one kid, and she wanted Michelle to be her best friend, and Michelle said, "Well, I want more than just one friend." And so then the war was on. So anytime Michelle would sit down at a table with her, she would command all the people, her
Yeah.
minions, to get up and move. Or when Michelle was walking down the hall, she'd make them, and she would whisper nasty things. And so eventually Michelle ate lunch in the nurse's office every day, but yet she didn't tell me. And for some reason, the nurse didn't tell me either. So that was,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like kids that age are, kind of like sociopaths, it's like
God.
it's not like really, he says, not really, but kind of, because they don't realize the damage that they're doing to the depth. And he said no, they're still, they're trying to be mean to each other, they're trying to hurt each other, but they don't have the mental capacity at that age to understand the length of damage that they're going to cause.
Yeah, I mean, their brains are not fully
No.
developed until they're like 25, and
Yeah.
yet we are suggesting that 16-year-olds should have the right to vote even before they take government in their senior year. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, all right, so I remember when iPads, or whatever, MP3 players first came out, and everybody's walking around with headphones on. It's like I felt like everybody was cocooned, and there was no
Mhm.
interaction with one another. And of course, I see that too. You guys have seen
Yeah.
it. I mean, people, a family at a restaurant, and everybody's on some smart device, not uttering a word to each other. And
Yep.
it's kind of sad because it takes away from the fact that we are all connected and we're all part of the collective and we all are one. So what do you
Yeah.
say about that
Well,
sad
he said
thing?
what he says about it is it's created an addiction that didn't exist 50 years ago. The technology, especially the phones, especially with the phones, he said, that's an addiction that he says a much bigger percentage of people are susceptible to this type of addiction than necessarily like a substance abuse issue. Going to get, even if they try drugs or the technology, the phones and stuff, creates a much wider addiction issue than kind of really anything else.
What's the root of the addiction? What are they truly addicted to?
um, he says there's many things that can, it's like a reassurance. Some people can't sit still and be in the moment, so this is a
Oh,
way to kind of make you feel like you're being in the moment when you're not really in the moment. um but he says that especially for like the younger generations, that validation.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's like there's this validation. We all want validation. He said we all want validation. It's part of human nature.
Mm.
But this gives you instant validation. Oh, did they like my picture? Did they, did my Snapchat
Ah,
get, this kind of thing. So that is what he says really feeds a lot of the younger generations.
well,
Um,
that's
that
too
that
bad.
instant gratification, that validation, and of course, he says it's not legitimate validation.
No.
Um, But
Sometimes it's the opposite.
yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so what was what we needed validation before technology? What kind of forms of validation
Well, he said he
were there?
actually says a lot of times people just walked around kind of feeling not validated. It's just
Yeah.
like you just kind of learn to live in that. Like, okay, well, I have to seek it for myself. I have to get it for myself, or just whatever. You just kind of suffered quietly with it a lot of
Oh,
times. Or you did get the validation from the people. He says that's the problem, is that legitimate validation is only going to come from a handful of people in your life compared to the number of people that you'll come across. And that's really the legitimate validation from, whatever, your parents, your family, your loved ones, your friends. That's the validation that is really important, not, your 15,000 followers
oh,
on.
I know. I think
on
the real legitimate validation comes from within. In
yeah.
parenting books, they talk about how humans are pack animals, and so sorry if I repeated this, but some of you guys might not have seen this in other videos. They need to belong to a pack, and they can do it one of two ways. They can conform to the pack and do as the pack commands, and that's what this technology is having them do, and their peers, etc. And that means every choice they make has to be crafted such that it seeks the pack's approval.
Hmm.
So their choices are based on what everybody else wants. But if
Yeah.
you are if you are self-directed, that means you earn your way into the you earn approval from the pack by um, contributing something unique and meaningful. Like maybe you're the negotiator, maybe you're the one that helps to heal maybe you're the one that makes people happy. I don't know, but then you get validation from within.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No
And so
bark. I got a bark collar
what
on that goes beep every time she barks.
what he says about that is, he says, like, even if you grow up with parents who are not validating you, you learn from that too. So yes, you might learn that, okay, I need to give validation to myself, or I need to, find validation someplace else. I'm not getting it from my parents. He says, even if you don't get it from your loved ones, it's still a lesson in validation.
Yeah, or you may see parents of your friends that are
Yeah.
validating. And you go, well, it's not because it's me. It's like they're crappy parents in that regard.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah. And so that's a big one. He said the validation is a big one why people are addicted to it.
all right. Is this whole obsession with technology, is that part of the mass spiritual contract?
Yeah, it is. It is. And he says it's not going anywhere.
Well, why?
Well, because just, he says, the sheer nature of technology.
Okay.
It's
Now, why
only,
do we have a contract? Sorry, not why is
oh,
it going to be there forever? It's going to get more and more.
yeah.
But why did we construct this spiritual contract?
Well, he said he says, we need to be able to get information so quickly around the world. It needs to be, because he says this, for example, he said without
Yeah.
technology, what we are trying to do here would not happen as quickly. So you need the technology for it to happen faster.
Oh, okay.
So there is benefit to it.
Yeah.
Absolutely, there's benefit to technology, and that's one of the things. Is information is accessible anytime, anywhere, well, almost anywhere.
Gotta remember getting out and lugging out the old Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
Or the ones I started with was the Book of Knowledge set. It's like when you look at up the moon, it shows these whole bunch of airplanes just flying to the moon, just prop
Yeah.
airplanes. You're right.
Yeah,
So,
well, what's funny is he's also saying, like, that's like on a grand scale, a big scale, as far as, like, trying to get, information, thinning the veil. This is a bigger scale. But he said, there's also, on smaller scales, on people's day-to-day lives, there's stuff you can't really get away with affairs anymore. It's uh it's just, there's like smaller things that the technology helps bring to light. that make people in their own individual life have to deal with. Losing their job because of something stupid they posted, that sort of stuff.
So little miniature individual contracts can
Yep.
exist because of technology.
Hmm.
So how will they affect, how do they and will they affect a child um, who is raised with that kind of technology, head in the phone or on games, etc.? What's different about the way they will grow up?
Well, what he's saying is that they'll, it'll just be less social than some upbringings, where you had to go out and play, and the neighborhood kids had to all get together, because there is less of that now, where you're just going out and wandering the streets until the street lights came on and came home. So it is definitely a different upbringing. It does not necessarily, he's saying, it doesn't necessarily mean that people as adults will be better or worse than they used to be. It's just a different upbringing. It's just a different upbringing. And he said it's not everybody, not all kids are allowed to do this, but the ones that do, it would be dependent on each individual child. For some kids, this is not healthy, and it does have the potential to,
Yeah, we're so scared to let our kids play outside. I mean, I used to play outside with my sisters, just, like you said, until the street lights came on.
yeah,
And I think that is so important because that's how kids learn to compromise, to negotiate. They learn how to deal with frustration. They learn how to be a leader, a follower, etc.
yeah,
All these super important social skills you don't get if you're, in front of an iPad. You just don't
yeah.
get it.
No, you don't.
So what
No,
kind
you
of
don't.
adults do these become as a general rule? Compared
Yeah,
to the adults, they're the
anti
adults 2.0.
antisocial, a bit
Yeah.
more antisocial. Um, harder to negotiate, harder to compromise. Yeah, there's definitely going to be that kind of
They're
person.
snowflakes. Maybe because they haven't learned to accept disappointment and
Mhm.
frustration, etc., because they have not been in the foxholes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Develop that
And what Eric is saying
resiliency.
is, for the most part, those are people who will have to adjust and learn that as adults, when
Yeah.
maybe generations before have kind of gotten a dose of that in their childhood, teenage years. um and he says there is a risk of having a more difficulty keeping jobs, um for
Because of
people
their
who,
antisocial?
yeah,
Or
yeah, well, the antisocial, yes, yep. um And he says these are kind of the more extreme cases, because he said
yeah.
not all the time, not everything that can be being done on the technology is going to cause this type of issue.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, well, aren't there some forms of social media and technology that does help connect us? And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. He says there
swipe
is a,
left, swipe right.
yeah, yeah. There is a lot of benefit, and how you're using social media. If you're using social media to stay connected with people, if you live far away from your extended family, it can be very, very helpful. Even as a teenager, if you're a military family and you're away from a big extended family, this can be very helpful, because maybe there's people that you can't see and talk to all the time that you can connect to on social media and help you with stuff. So he says it really depends on the individual person and what they're doing and what they're expecting from their social media stuff. Now, even he says, even some of the games that the kids play, um, that are kind of more military based, and he said, but they're also forming strategies, and they're on there talking with other people, and he said that's not always a bad thing. It becomes a bad thing when it becomes an obsession and an addiction.
And that depends
That's,
on the person too and their
yes,
personality.
Yes.
If you got
Yep.
a little serial killer to be playing these games,
Exactly.
he could become a school shooter or she, whatever.
Yes.
So do you think these games have contributed to violence and mass shootings and things like that?
Okay, so he said he's like this is very delicate, but no. He
Okay.
says no because he said those people would have found something else that would have triggered them.
Ah,
Okay? So,
yeah.
so the ideas of what they do and where they pull their um what I can't I'm sorry, I can't get the word. But where they pull their information from
Hmm.
might be video game stuff. Had it not been video games, it would have been something else.
Yeah, a book,
Yes.
murder mystery or something. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Um, now, how will this technology now? How will it? It has, of course, but how will it affect our society 100 years from now, or in the distant future, in good ways and bad ways?
Yeah, and it will be in good and in bad ways. Most of the well, he says some of the bad stuff is the antisocial behavior, but identity theft. He says there'll be a lot more of that, a lot more of the hacking and information getting out there that, can be harmful. Um, sorry. Sometimes he gives me stuff and I'm like, I don't want to say that right on camera.
Oh,
But he says, oh,
it can be our little
military,
secret. Just don't.
military stuff. He said that can be,
Yeah.
they have to stay a step ahead of everything else,
Yeah.
as far as that sort of stuff goes. So those are some of the bad aspects of it. Um, but again, the good aspects are going to be medical revelations.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. What about medical technology? You're right.
yeah, that, saving lives and or making people who are sick with serious illness lives better, towards the end stages and stuff like that. And so he says you really can't have one without the other. And he said it does not matter. Technology is moving forward. There is no derailing it now. He said that's it. We're on that path. It is set.
Okay. Automation is going to get bigger and bigger, and that's going to wipe out a whole bunch of entry-level jobs for our, older teens and young adults.
Yes.
Cons?
Yeah. And so what happens, what he's saying with that kind of stuff is that it does take away some jobs, but it does add others.
Yeah, somebody's got to build the robots.
Somebody's got to build the robot. Somebody's got to maintain the robot. Somebody's got, so there is other stuff that's going to come along, even though some other stuff kind of got wiped out.
It's really interesting. I've been reading about disruptive technologies. If you look at this one picture of the Macy's Day Parade where there's one car and the rest are, horse and buggies. 10, 11 years later, there's one horse and buggy, the rest cars. So,
Mhm.
of course, the taxi drivers, horse and buggy, they were not happy. But look at the technology
Yes.
that automobiles have brought. Now you have the drilling industry, oil, and sorry guys, fossil fuels, but whatever, or solar.
Right.
Electrical, and you have somebody has to make the wheels, somebody has to get the rubber for the wheels, somebody has, and
Yeah.
mechanics and car washes, etc. So you're right, and if you can figure out what the next
Yes.
disruptive technology is going to be, you invest in that, and you can make a
Absolutely.
killing. Look at Uber.
Absolutely. And
Uber's given
yeah. And
a
what he says with the technology stuff is as more technology comes along, he said they don't even realize, the people who are doing this technology, they don't even realize the other type of things that's going to be involved with it, the other jobs it's going to create, and the other necessities that are going to come about because of it.
yeah. Some of the companies that are disrupted, they take advantage of it and go with the flow and are
Yeah.
part of that stream, but others don't. Look at Kodak. when
Yeah.
digital cameras came up, or look at carbon paper.
Yes.
They didn't adapt to the
No.
disruptive technology. What's the next disruptive technology going to be, Erik?
He says there's going to be a lot of stuff with medical, the disrupted. It's going to be a lot of medical, like
A cure for
where,
cancer. That would be a very
yeah,
disruptive.
yeah, like where they're so close, and then they get derailed, and then like 5 years later, what they were trying to do here is going to all of a sudden be huge. That's
Yeah.
where you're going to see a lot of disrupted technology is with the medical stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
Like a
the
lot
cure
of
for cancer.
equipment,
Huh?
a lot of equipment.
Yeah.
Like robot type stuff, this type of thing with the not necessarily medications, he says.
Oh yeah. Right. But a cure for diabetes, can you imagine? No more insulin pumps and, insulin needles and all that kind of stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
and if
Yeah.
there was a cure for cancer, I'd put the wig business out of business.
Yes.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
one last question, and we'll quit, and then we'll go to our next topic. Advice for parents.
Limit the time, limit the exposure.
Mhm.
And he said, parents, you need to know what it is that your kids are doing. You need to watch them play the games that they're playing so you can see what's in them. Because he said a lot of parents have no idea what their kids are actually doing.
Can't they kind of look online before they,
Yeah, they can, but
inform before they buy it?
he said, of course they can, but do they? That's the,
Yeah, I
and
know.
he says a lot of
So,
them don't.
when should kids be allowed to have a computer and then also have a phone? How old?
Okay, so he says that even the tablets at a small age, young age, they can be beneficial. They can be learning devices.
Oh yeah, that's true. I
Um,
got Easton one when he was
yes,
two, almost 3.
yeah.
And
So
then
he's
all
saying
sorts
like
of
two,
learning things.
3, yeah. And so he said that's really fine. And usually in that time you're kind of sitting there watching, very well aware. But as far as the phone goes, he said, you know, 5th, 6th grade, that kind of area is okay. But he said, if you have a latchkey type of situation, then that child needs a phone.
Yeah,
That child needs a phone.
yeah. Well,
Um,
I didn't have it. I was a latchkey kid.
Different. He said it's different now.
Why? More dangerous?
Yeah, more dangerous. Um, just I yeah.
That's
He
where you
said,
live, and
and he said if the technology had been available when you were a latchkey, you would have had a phone. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. If you live in the projects, then you probably need to have a phone when you come home from
Yeah.
school.
Yep.
All right. So, how many hours should kids spend on any form of technology per day or per week?
Um, Case by case basis and an age by age basis. Older kids are going to need to be in front of screens longer because they've got work to do on the computers.
Okay. Aside from school work.
Okay, a couple of hours max.
Okay.
And Eric's kind of showing me sort of older kids for
Okay.
that. Your 2-year-old maybe shouldn't have the iPad for 2, 3, 4 hours a day.
I know. Could that be bad for them, just medically, just physically, energetically? The
Oh
blue
yeah,
light?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's like it's it does desensitize, especially at such a young age. So he said if you're letting like your real young kids be on the tablets and stuff a lot, you're going to have a lot more of kids saying I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored, because they can't entertain themselves.
And that's the problem. You're right. That's
Themselves.
another thing it engenders is
Yeah.
this discomfort with being idle.
Quiet time. Yeah.
Boredom.
Yeah.
They can just sit and be in the now. So maybe that we should do something like, okay, you could start
Yes.
whatever,
Yes.
but
Yep. And
after you
that's a big problem
meditate.
that it causes.
Yeah, just okay. We're gonna go through some meditation before you get on that screen.
Yes. yoga, meditation, something that is just as much downtime as that would be up time.
I just say, hey, I'm not your social director. Figure it out, but you're not getting on
Yeah,
TV. So
exactly.
play outside. I mean, don't you think kids ought to, depending on the environment, play outside more?
Yes.
You have
Yeah.
organized play dates, you know? I mean,
Yep.
basically all they do is they go to school, then they go to soccer, which they don't really have any, they don't interact with each other really. I mean,
Yeah,
not the way kids who play outside would.
that's true.
There needs to be some, don't you agree that there should be play
Using
dates?
their imagination. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
kids now don't, use their imagination as much as it used to be.
I know. It's, have they lost the ability to imagine or
No.
reduce the ability?
No, they haven't. No, it as time goes by, yes, that individual child who's on the technology, yes, they lose the ability to have the imagination be as active, yes, but they don't come in that way. They don't come in that way.
All right. So, are there any screens that protect them from the blue light? I can't remember.
Yeah, there's like I know that there's like filters and stuff you can put
So
on
there.
the screens, and parents also need to be aware. Eric just said a lot more kids complain of headaches now than they used to.
Oh,
A
wow.
lot more kids have trouble with headaches than they used to.
What else
And
does the blue light do
yep,
that's bad?
yep, it does. That's what's causing the problem with the eyes. So if you're having a kid
Ooh.
that's struggling with headaches, get the covers for your screens. You can Google it and find.
Oh
I
yeah,
think I think there's the yellow, the yellow ones too,
yeah.
the yellow glasses, but you can put something right on most of the screens that will filter the light.
What other harmful things can the blue light do? Does it cause brain tumors or anything?
Well, actually, he's saying that kids or people who might be a little more sensitive to seizures,
Oh, okay.
like it can interrupt like brain waves, and
Yeah.
I guess maybe because of what it does to the eyes and the losing the focus on the eyes, but he says it can cause issues there.
Okay. Is there anything that a parent can buy or use to help monitor the screen time? Like an
No.
app, or I know on my iPhone has screen time on it, and says, "Oh my God, you've been on this phone for how long?"
Yeah, he says this you don't really need to if you got to be more aware. Set the timer on the microwave, set the egg timer if
Oh
still have an
yeah,
egg timer,
yeah.
set your
Good
Alexa
idea.
timer. He kind of smiles because it's like a technology thing. But yeah, set your Alexa timer and
Yeah, really. It's so crazy because we're so busy in this world as parents, and so
yeah,
it's so easy to just use that electronic babysitter.
yeah,
Here, play on your
absolutely.
iPad. I just need some time alone.
Absolutely. That's absolutely
Do
it.
that, man. All right. Anything else you want to say about? So basically, let them play outside more if it's safe.
Yeah.
If it's not safe, arrange play dates where they actually really, really, really play and
Board games,
develop some
card
social.
games,
Yeah,
find another interest. Yeah,
right,
but he's
right,
I will.
meditate or do yoga before you can get on the screen. I mean, practice being
Yes.
mindful before you get on the screen. Protect them from blue light and
Yeah.
monitor their screen time.
Screen time.
Anything else?
Yes. No. Nope. Just have to be diligent. He said, "Be
I
diligent." It's
know.
tough.
It's so
It
hard.
is very tough.
Oh. All right. Well, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Eric. I love you both.
I
And
love
you guys can
you.
check her out, psychic medium, jenniferdoran.com. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Call you right back.